Hey, my name is Staci Sadler, and I'm author of the book Aura Personalities. And today I'm going to talk about the aura personality called Aventuring Crystal. So, Aventuring Crystal is a spiritual layer of light around someone, and by spiritual I mean energy based. So, the kind of think of it as like a language, and their language would be energy or vibrations. Okay, and I name them the avatar, and you'll see why in a minute. But aventuring crystals are a really colorful aura personality. So if somebody has a venturing crystal as a first layer of light around them, that in a nutshell could be called a restless soul or an avatar or somebody with a mission and frustration with not being able to get all the pieces to align so they can execute that mission and go forward at the pace that they think they should be able to go. So that's one way to think of aventuring crystals. My favorite kind of like way to think of them, when I looked at all of like the different aura personalities and put them in the book, it was like, what with aventuring crystals, they have this what I call the creation destruction energy. Okay, so you can't have creation without destruction because it's cyclical, and aventuring crystals kind of live in that. So their life, the way they move, the way they interact, the way they think, it just tends to go in these like big cycles like that of very creative and fertile and moving and in motion and going toward, and then it can kind of have this like crash and burn and then going into like a hibernation and it just a kind of like a what would look like a regressive state from the outside. If you have an aventuring crystal in your life, you would know what that looks like. It just looks like you on the outside. You never kind of know what to expect from them. But it also is very much like an internal experience for them. So that's the way that that would be evident in them is how much everything is just big for them. When I was just looking at the chapter, this in the book I wrote, I have to go visit the chapters, but when I was looking at it, I was thinking in particular about how they can just get overwhelmed with life, but also because they're overwhelmed because they tend to think big picture, and then they're very highly engaged in the moment. So really high engagement, high presence, and then kind of big picture things going on, and like next kind of a feeling. So I even wrote in the book that it could look a little bit like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but I don't know that that's fair, to just say that every aventuring crystal has those traits. But that sense of restlessness is a very, very common feeling that runs through them. When I look at the chapter with them, I called them multidimensional tasks. Let's see, multitaskers. Something I think is really important to remember about them is, that for them to remember is that there is purpose in mortality. Like there's purpose in this life, birth, life, decisions, consequences, death. And aventuring crystal, probably more than any of the other aura personalities, feel a real I don't know, like an angst or like just a feeling of being unsettled. And in my personal beliefs, we existed before we came to earth, we'll exist after we leave our mortal body and rejoin it, but all along the way, this little portion where we're here on earth can feel very confining sometimes to some of the personalities, and in particular the venturing crystals can feel really kind of stuck sometimes by the body. Unfortunately, they're going to want to change that thinking, because that's where their power is going to be, is when they learn that the body is this wonderful gift, and that this pacing of the body and the spirit need to learn how to coexist, and that that's where the power lies. So it's basically something we want them to learn to kind of put that thinking aside. And that belief system has been almost across the board when I meet aventurine crystals, is that feeling of just kind of restlessness or impatience with the body. So learning how to, they're already really good at being present, but it's learning how to be present and kind of slow down enough to actually be in the experience and be okay with it, and be okay with it in that next moment, and then again in that next moment. And it takes some real mindfulness on their part. Very intelligent group of people, but getting to mindfulness and really truly being able to get centered is kind of a challenge that they have, but really will be really worth it if they can give that gift to themselves.